Everybody. So normally I do the video first and then maybe share a picture afterwards sometimes. But today for the Storytime Saturday, I'm gonna start with the picture on TikTok and then it'll kind of inform what I'm gonna talk about for Storytime Saturday. So this is called It All kind of comes full circle. And it's interesting. The photo you'll see is a letter that one of my students wrote for me in 2019. It was my third year. My first year is what they call switching or having two groups or being departmentalized, as I was self-contained. My first 2 years actually with the same group of kids. So, it was, honest performance-wise, pretty good year. I had kids pushing levels like 88, 90%. And then this is when I kind of came up with my test prep method that I already kind of started implementing with that group, both groups. And they were starting to really turn it on and go. And then the rug kind of got ripped from under me as they said that we were going to make a homeroom switch before the 4th 9 weeks, which is crazy at that time. But that was one particular switch group where a lot of the kids were struggling. So what they did, they made me self-contained and said that, hey, which means I teach all subjects and that I was going to get all the below level kids. So it's kind of like, wow. So you go from being pushing to 90, 95% and really probably going to get 95% on the STAR test 2 years in a row, 90% 2 years in a row to, getting kids who struggle. It would just be hard. And oddly enough, with that test prep method, a lot of them gained 20 and 30 points, but they were just that far behind. And it's like one of the true first pain points of my career because it ain't really about the performance in a sense. It's like losing your kids, the ability to finish with your group. That's why I'm real big on that now. Last year was the first year I finished with a group, and since that time, which is since before that time, which is crazy because next year was COVID. So that was a pivotal moment in my career, and I worked second grade the next year. But in a sense, it's all in how you look at stuff. Because now the things I was tinkering around with that year, as far as with structured literacy type practices, as far as teaching reading and even grammar, I was kind of playing around with it that year. And then I started fleshing it out more as I learned more about Bloom's over the coming years, even within interventions, things like that. So the origins kind of started then, which I'll be able to share, I guess, close to a month when I do this presentation. And so it just seems full circle now that I had that moment last week. My kids got 100%. I was like, wow, this is the first time I made it into the end of a first week of a 4th 9 weeks with a group that I was departmentalized with. It's kind of like, it seems silly that I'm in my 9th year and that's the first time. And I was like, man, imagine I could have did this every year. But sometimes God, that's not what's in the cards. That's not what he wants. Because I see now all the things that I've come up with since then. And I was like, that would have never happened if I stayed on that path. And that's what you have to think about sometimes. We sometimes think in the mortal realm of what we think of as what we want and things like that, and then you see it takes years sometimes and really to see the vision of what really in place. I came up with word power the next year. I came up with TIDE, or intervention structure. As an interventionist, I came up with the playbook, and then I've been able to come up now, coming to this new environment. I've come up with this. Everybody's doing race now. I've come up with RIPE. And so I essentially built my literacy block, my literacy practice that now I'm gonna be able to show to the whole world. I have multiple things now that I can show at conferences and even some other little things that I'm coming up with now. And then at the same time, other things that people probably don't even know about that I do to boost performance and things that you can't really put in other people sometimes, but it's some things I probably could show. So I'm just excited about that, but it really all came full circle because it's all about taking those kids from average, good, great to phenomenal. It really is about that because it ain't always about the academic. Some kids need the other pieces. So I don't want you to look at it just a thing that really touched me at that time. I was talking to a parent and they said that their daughter, or I think it might have been the grandparents were raising the child, said that the girl talks about it every day. After they changed the classrooms and all that. So that's something I just want people to really think about. If you're administrators, think about decisions. Put these kids first when you make these decisions. Start putting yourself first. And about what your agenda is, whether you're being evil for some other reason or if you're doing it for your own selfish gain, think about the people that we actually serve. Because at the end of the day, we're here for kids. I tell people it's called a phenomenal student for a reason because someone even asked me, I was like, it's about making students phenomenal. So I'm Mr. Short. I passed my test. I don't need to pass any more tests. Well, maybe some. But, it's about making them phenomenal. All right, guys, it all kind of came full circle, and I see now the vision of what God really wanted me from my mission at that time. Even though it's a pain point, sometimes you learn to take that pain point and actually use it for good. All right, y'all, peace out.